Ever thought a polite shoulder bump could be the future of paying for pizza? Welcome to Unboxd Origins. I'm Howie, your resident science geek and accidental trivia sponge.
And I'm Wyatt. I ask the big questions. Sometimes philosophical, often skeptical, always curious.
Today, we're digging into how did tap to cash turn iPhones into bump to pay wallets? Okay, minute 1. Phones as wallets didn't arrive fully formed. The technical seed was NFC, short for near field communication, a tiny radio handshake that was quietly living in phones long before most people knew what it did. NFC's original magic was simple. 2 devices, close proximity, brief exchange, good for boarding passes, access badges, and later credit card style payments. Apple leaned into that with Apple Pay in 2014, which turned the iPhone into a contactless card. It wasn't the first, but Apple's polish, tokenization, the secure element, and biometric unlocks made contactless payments feel safe and mainstream. Suddenly, tapping to buy a coffee became socially ordinary rather than sci-fi. From there, the story folds into person-to-person payments. Apple Cash, originally called Apple Pay Cash, introduced with iOS 11.2 in late 2017, plugged the social gap. You could send money to a friend the way you send a GIF, but sending through messages is a different vibe than literally bumping phones together. In parallel, Apple opened up merchant-focused tools. Remember Tap to Pay on iPhone? In 2022, Apple introduced Tap to Pay on iPhone, a feature that lets businesses accept contactless card payments with nothing but an iPhone and an app, removing the need for a separate card reader. Apple did this under strict rules. It allowed apps to act like a payment terminal, while still restricting access to the secure element and preventing arbitrary card emulation. That technical pivot, exposing merchant-facing payment APIs and the contactless interface to third-party apps under tight controls, set the stage. Developers were now able to make phones emulate a payment terminal or build creative flows around card-present interactions, and that's where sandbox creativity and occasionally social media mischief took over. Now, fold in the cultural vector. A WWDC teaser. Apple loves theatrical hints. A quick visual of 2 people leaning phones together, a smile, a chime. No step-by-step, just a mood. Those teasers do something important. They spark imagination. For engineers, it's a spec to implement. For content creators, it's a stunt to try. Enter TikTok. Creators are brilliant at spotting affordances, small features that can be extended into performance. A few videos showed people bumping to split a bill using combinations of wallet passes, contactless prompts, and the merchant APIs repurposed in unexpected ways. These clips were weirdly compelling because they combined physical comedy with instant gratification. The bump, the chime, the receipt. Within days, the bump to send tag was born, and millions of views later, tap to cash, a shorthand for this emergent behavior, became a cultural meme.
Aha! And here's the twist people miss. It wasn't purely a software trick, or simply a marketing stunt. It revealed a design tension. Apple engineered contactless payments for security, with tokenization and the secure element isolating sensitive data. Yet the same plumbing allowed merchants to initiate a payment handshake without ever touching the customer's card data. So when creators repurposed merchant flows for peer payments, they uncovered both a vulnerability and a user experience opportunity. It's like discovering a back door that's actually an inviting patio. You can enter a house through it, but it changes how people use the house. Suddenly, the very controls meant to compartmentalize and harden payments became the rails for a new, tactile social ritual.
That tension is where the product and policy teams had to sprint. Apple didn't simply shrug, they iterated. They tightened authentication prompts, clarified guidelines for which APIs could present which UI flows, and pushed updates to the wallet and payments frameworks to make clear what constitutes a peer payment versus a merchant transaction. At the same time, UX designers leaned into the human side, vibration patterns, chimes, and on-screen affordances that confirm intent. Because the success of a bump is not just technical reliability, it's the social assurance that yes, I meant to send that. Developers built app-level confirmations, receipts, and friction like Face ID to balance the fun of the bump with the legal and security realities of moving money. And banks, they watched closely. because any new rails for movement of funds ripple through fraud models and compliance. On the adoption front, it's instructive to look outward. Tap-to-pay systems traditionally needed an ecosystem. Banks, card networks, merchants, and social payment apps like Venmo and Zelle carved out a marketplace by offering social ledger features, emojis, comments, and shareable links. Tap-to-cash fused the physical and social layers. You could preserve the messy human choreography of splitting the check while making the money move out of sight in a heartbeat. That frictionless aspect is why bars, cafes, and friend groups started to really lean in. Peer payments went from tapping a button in a chat to an embodied act resembling the exchange of cash, a small performative moment that says, "I got this," or "let's split it," except now it's recorded, auditable, and usually patched through multiple digital intermediaries.
And here's another aha. The viral TikTok hacks were as much sociological experiments as technical ones. People watched and copied the gestures because the act of bumping is narratively rich. It's a micro-drama with a payoff. But copying wasn't flawless. Some lighting, software versions, and regional banking policies broke the trick. Those failures exposed how heterogeneous payment systems are. Permissions vary by country, different issuers show different prompts, and what works in one place fails in another. In other words, the bump videos inadvertently became global QA tests. Creators and engineers learned quickly. Standardize the UX where you can, communicate the caveats where you can't, and tell consumers to update their phones.
So why does all this matter beyond a flurry of viral clips? Because it alters expectations. People start to expect money to move as effortlessly as a handshake. That changes how businesses think about checkout and how designers think about social interaction. When money becomes a social gesture, legal and ethical questions arrive in the room. Consent, reversibility, dispute resolution. Who's liable if someone accidentally bumps and pays the wrong person? How do you reverse a peer-to-peer NFC transfer that leveraged a merchant API instead of a dedicated P2P rail? Those are not just edge cases, they shape policy choices and product roadmaps. We're seeing banks and regulators wrangle with these questions as the phenomenon scales beyond TikTok virality into everyday use.
It also matters philosophically. Physical acts, handing over cash, a tap on the shoulder, carries social meaning and a rhythm of accountability. When we translate those acts into an almost theatrical technological ritual, we're not just optimizing for speed, we're redesigning a social cue. Tap to cash didn't just make payments faster, it re-specified how we share responsibility in small social transactions. That has implications for trust and for the subtle grammar of our daily interactions.
Wrapping up, Tap to Cash is the product of layered evolution. NFC hardware, Apple Pay's security model, merchant-facing APIs like Tap to Pay on iPhone, creative interpretation by content creators, and the social political pushback that forced refinements. Tech and culture iterated on each other so quickly that a feature could be teased at WWDC, prototyped on TikTok, and then refined in an OS update within months. The result is a new affordance that turns phones into not just wallets, but props in a social ritual. A bump, a chime, a receipt, and someone with a slightly smug grin because they didn't have to get the cashier involved.
So, why should you care? Because this is how everyday tech moves from novelty to norm. Small technical primitives are wrapped in a human gesture, amplified by culture, and then regulated into a stable form. Tap to Cash shows that the final shape of a technology is rarely decided in a lab or a boardroom alone. It's co-authored by engineers, marketers, creators, and everyday users, figuring out how it feels to live with it. And that co-authorship is messy, interesting, and inevitably human.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit like, subscribe, and share with a friend who still owes you money. So, how did Tap to Cash turn iPhones into bump-to-pay wallets? It turned out to be less of a single invention and more of a social technical mashup. NFC hardware, secure payment rails, merchant APIs, a WWDC wink, and 1,000 TikTok bumps that taught the world a new way to split a bill.